I learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the same way that most people do, in a classroom, looking at that pyramid on the whiteboard. And I remember thinking, this doesn't make any sense because I grew up poor, like really poor, the kind of poor where you move constantly because your mom can't afford rent. 11 different schools before I graduated early after 10th grade. And I watched my mom and everyone around me chase the bottom of the pyramid their entire lives, working harder, stressing more, always trying to get to enough. But here's what I noticed: enough never came. There was always another bill, another worry, another reason why now wasn't the time to think about purpose or passion or becoming your best self. That was a luxury for people who had their lives together. So when I turned 18, I found myself about to be homeless because my landlord was selling the house. And you know what I did? I made a decision based on fear and scarcity rather than alignment. And I married someone so he could get the military housing allowance and we'd have a roof over our heads. I did care for him, but I prioritized safety and shelter, just like Maslow said I should. And that wasn't fair to him or to myself. It wasn't until after my second divorce that I finally understood. I had been doing it backwards the entire time. The moment I stopped waiting for everything to be stable and secure, the moment I started prioritizing my spiritual growth and my energetic healing first, that's when everything shifted. I went to seminars, I did the inner work, I read the books, I focused on personal development. I started at the top of the pyramid instead of the bottom. And you know what happened? The foundation I'd been desperately trying to build through force, it started building itself. Today, I want to share with you why Maslow got it backwards and how flipping that pyramid upside down might be the missing piece in your own healing journey. Welcome to Jotindi, Journey to the Inner Divine, a sacred space for healing energy, emotional release, and soulful transformation. If you're ready to live with joy, ease, and purpose, you're in the right place. So let's talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a moment. If you've never seen it, picture a pyramid with 5 levels. At the very bottom, the foundation, you have your physiological needs: food, water, shelter, sleep, etc. The absolute basics for survival. The second level up is safety and security, like employment, resources, health, financial stability, feeling protected and stable in your life. The third level is love and belonging, friendship, family, intimate connection, community, feeling like you're part of something. The fourth level is self esteem, self respect, achievement, confidence, freedom, feeling good about who you are and what you're capable of. And at the very top, at the peak of the pyramid, is self actualization, becoming your highest self, living your purpose, creative expression, your spiritual growth, all of that. Now, here's how the model is traditionally taught: you can't move up to the next level until the level below is satisfied. You can't really worry about self esteem if you don't have love and belonging. And you can't pursue your purpose if you don't feel safe. And you definitely can't focus on becoming your best self if you're worried about where your next meal is coming from. And on the surface, that sounds logical, right? It sounds totally reasonable. But here's the thing that I realized growing up the way that I did: this model keeps people trapped in survival mode indefinitely. Because when you're living at those bottom 2 levels, the physiological needs and safety, there's always a reason to stay focused there. There's always something that isn't quite enough yet. You need more money so you can afford better food. You need a better job so you can feel more secure. You need a bigger emergency fund, a more reliable car, better health insurance, a house instead of an apartment, more savings, more. And I watched this with my own mother. I watched it with everyone around me growing up. They were working so hard and stressing so much, constantly chasing that elusive feeling of being stable, stable enough to finally relax and think about the bigger questions like purpose or passion or joy. But that moment never came because the goalpost kept moving. And here's a really heartbreaking part: how many people spend their entire lives stuck at the bottom of the pyramid, never giving themselves permission to explore who they really are, or what they're here to create, or what brings them alive? They tell themselves that once I've saved enough, then I'll pursue my passion. Or once the kids are grown and I'm more financially stable, then I'll focus on my spiritual growth. Or once I retire and I don't have to worry about money anymore, then I'll go figure out why I'm really here or what I'm supposed to be doing. But here's the truth that Maslow's model doesn't account for. When you operate from survival consciousness, you stay in survival consciousness. When your entire focus is on lack and limitation and what you don't have, what you need to secure, what might go wrong, you're vibrating at the frequency of fear and scarcity. And from that frequency, you can't access the quantum field of infinite potential. You can't tap into universal abundance. You're stuck in a loop, constantly trying to fill a hole that never feels full enough. And this is the opposite of what quantum healing and aligned action are. This model teaches you that you have to earn the right to step into your purpose, that you have to prove you're stable enough before the universe will support you and your dreams. But what if that's completely backwards? What if waiting for external stability before pursuing internal alignment is exactly what's keeping you stuck? What happens when you flip the pyramid? Here's what I want you to consider. What if you started at the top of the pyramid instead of the bottom? What if, instead of waiting until you feel safe and secure to work on becoming your best self, you made becoming your best self the priority and let everything else flow from there? I know it sounds radical. It might even sound irresponsible or unrealistic, but stay with me because this is where everything changes. When you focus on self-actualization first, when you prioritize connecting to the universal energy, discovering your purpose, and sharing your gifts with the world, something incredible starts to happen. You can't pursue self-actualization in isolation. To become your highest self, you have to develop the qualities in that fourth tier: creativity, self-respect, self-care, freedom, confidence. These aren't separate goals that you work toward later. They're absolutely necessary for the journey of becoming who you're meant to be. So, tier 4 emerges naturally as you pursue tier 5. You're not forcing yourself to work on self esteem as a checkbox. You're developing it organically because your purpose demands it. And here's where things get really beautiful. When you embody these qualities, when you're creative and confident, self respecting and free, people are naturally drawn to you. Have you ever noticed how magnetic certain people are? How you just want to be around them, to learn from them, to absorb their energy? That's not an accident. When someone is living in alignment with their purpose, when they're vibrating at the frequency of their highest self, they become a beacon. People feel your energy. They're inspired by your growth, and they want what you have. And not in a jealous way, but in an I want to grow like that too kind of way. And so you naturally attract like minded souls who are also on the path of expansion and healing. And these aren't just surface level friendships or networking connections, these are soul aligned relationships. People who share your values, who support your growth, who celebrate your wins, and hold you through your challenges. This is how real community forms, not through forced networking or trying to people please your way into belonging, but through authentic alignment. And boom, you just fulfilled tier 3, love and belonging, without even trying. It emerged organically from you living in your purpose. Now you have a strong, supportive community around you. Something profound shifts in how you experience your safety and security, that second tier of Maslow's pyramid. And here's what I learned the hard way: safety is not a one-person job. When I was operating from survival mode, I thought I had to handle everything myself. I had to be the one to secure the housing, to earn the money, to figure it all out. The weight of my entire survival was on my shoulders, and that is a crushing way to live. But when you have real community, people who genuinely care about you and are invested in your well-being, you're not carrying that burden alone anymore. Your network helps to find you employment opportunities. Someone knows someone who's hiring. Somebody else has a skill that you need and offers to help. Resources flow more easily because you're connected to people who want to support you. And when things go sideways, and they will because that's life, you don't spiral into a panic because you know that you have people who will catch you. That's true security, not a number in a bank account, but a web of connection that holds you and supports you. And that brings us all the way down to tier one, those basic physiological needs that Maslow said has to come first. Here's the truth. You will never go without your basic needs met when you're surrounded by people who genuinely love and care for you. When I was isolated, operating from scarcity and fear, trying to secure everything on my own, that's when I struggled the most with my basic needs. That's when I was making decisions out of desperation. But when I built real community through living my purpose, when I had friends who showed up and supported me, I never once went without. If I needed help with food, someone would bring groceries. When I was struggling to find housing, someone I knew wrote a computer program to crawl the internet and forward me listings the moment they were posted. And I found the perfect, affordable house for me at the time in the perfect neighborhood. It was like a miracle. And think about this. The stress and anxiety of survival mode absolutely destroys your sleep. But when you're living in alignment and you're connected to community and feeling supported, you sleep like a baby because you're not carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And even reproduction, which Maslow puts at the base level, literally requires that the third tier of love and belonging be in place first. You can't create new life in isolation. That's ridiculous. So, by starting at the top and working your way down, you've actually created a stable foundation that is far more resilient than anything you could have forced from a place of fear and scarcity. This is how universal law and quantum healing actually work. You don't vibrate at the level of frequency and lack and then expect abundance to show up. You don't operate from fear and then wonder why you can't access your purpose. You step into your purpose first. You align with your highest self. You raise your vibration. And from that elevated frequency, you attract the resources, the people, the opportunities, and the security that matches your new energetic state. The universe doesn't reward you for suffering long enough. It responds to your vibration. And when you're vibrating at the frequency of purpose and aligned action, everything else reorganizes itself to support that. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds beautiful, but is there any proof that this actually works, starting with the purpose instead of security as a viable path? And here's what's wild. This isn't a new idea at all. In fact, some of the most transformative spiritual teachers in human history lived this exact way. We just somehow forgot to make the connection. Let me tell you the story of Siddhartha. You probably know him as Buddha. Siddhartha was a prince. He absolutely had everything at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid. We're talking wealth, luxury, security, comfort, a loving family. He never knew suffering. He lived in a palace, protected from the harsh realities of the world. Until one day, he ventured outside the palace walls and saw something that shook him to his core. Poverty, sickness, old age, death, people struggling just to survive. And he realized in that moment that he wasn't immune from suffering. He just hadn't experienced it yet. And that's all his wealth and all his security couldn't protect him from the reality of the human existence. So what did he do? He walked away from it all. He gave up the palace, the comfort, the security, everything at the base of the pyramid, and he went in completely the opposite direction. He practiced extreme self deprivation, gave up things like sex, material possessions, even food for periods of time through fasting. He was trying to find meaning, trying to understand suffering by experiencing the absolute opposite of what he'd known. And after years of this, he had profound revelation. The one true refuge from suffering isn't in external circumstances at all. Whether you have abundance or nothing, it's within the mind. It's in consciousness itself. He achieved enlightenment while meditating under a tree, not by securing his basic needs first, not by making sure that he had a stable job and a retirement plan. He started at self-actualization, the spiritual seeking, the quest for truth, and everything else became irrelevant. And here's the thing. This practice of transcending material needs to find spiritual truth, it's everywhere. It's woven into the fabric of spiritual traditions across the entire world. Christians practice Lent, a period of fasting and self-denial to draw closer to God. Muslims fast during Ramadan, abstaining from food and drink from sunrise to sunset as a spiritual practice. Ascetic traditions exist in Hinduism, Buddhism, even ancient Greek philosophy. Jesus himself gave up worldly possessions and security to teach others about spiritual enlightenment. He literally said it's easier for the camel to go through an eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. He was teaching that attachments to those base level needs, to security and wealth, were the wrong place to start. Do you see the pattern? Religions all over the world, including here in the West, teach the complete opposite of Maslow's hierarchy. And yet somehow, Western psychology has convinced us that we have to secure the bottom of the pyramid before we're allowed to explore the top. That spiritual growth and purpose are luxuries that we earn after everything else is handled. And we just accept this contradiction. We honor spiritual leaders who transcend material needs to find enlightenment. And in the same breath, we tell everyday people, but you need to make sure that you have job security and a savings account before you can think about your purpose. Can you see the cognitive dissonance? We revere people who did it backwards, but we're terrified to try it ourselves. And I think the reason is this, that quantum healing and universal law operate on a completely different frequency than survival consciousness. When you're stuck at the bottom of that pyramid and you're focused on lack and fear and what if I don't have enough, you literally cannot access the quantum field of infinite potential. You can't tap into creation, into manifestation, into the flow of the universal abundance when you're vibrating at the frequency of survival. You have to rise above it. You have to trust that when you align with your highest purpose, the universe will support you, just like it supported Buddha and Jesus and countless other seekers who chose spirit over security. If you're waiting to feel secure enough or stable enough to work on your purpose, you're using Maslow's model, and it's keeping you stuck. Your purpose, your gifts, your connections to the universe, these aren't luxuries that you earn after everything else is handled. They are the foundation. When you start with aligned action and purpose, your energy shifts, your vibration rises, you attract different opportunities and different people, and the universe supports your path. This doesn't mean that you ignore your practical needs. It means that you trust when you're in alignment, those needs will be met, often in very surprising ways. This is how universal law and quantum healing actually work. You don't wait for the external world to be perfect before you step into your purpose. You step into your purpose and watch the external world reorganize itself around your new frequency. So now you're probably wondering how to actually put this into practice. First, reframe your priorities. Instead of thinking things like, once I have enough money, then I'll explore my purpose, try, what is my purpose and how can I start living it now with what I already have? You can implement a daily practice. In the morning, connect to universal energy. Do a meditation, a prayer, or breath work. Throughout the day, ask yourself, is this aligned action? Is this moving me towards my highest self? And in the evening, reflect on where you showed up as your best self throughout the day. You can give your gifts now. You don't have to wait until you have all the credentials, the wealth, or the perfect circumstances to start sharing your gifts. Start small. Help one person. Create one piece of art. Share one insight. And watch how the universe responds when you lead with purpose. And then trust the process. When you prioritize self-actualization, the lower levels don't fall apart. They fall into place, actually stabilize in ways that you couldn't have forced. Your community finds you. Resources flow. Safety emerges from connection, not isolation. And you want to know a perfect modern day example of this? It's content creator culture. Think about it. People get online every single day and they start creating content that's aligned with who they are. Whether it's educational, funny, cringy, artistic, even just dancing in their kitchen. So many of them start with absolutely nothing. No fancy equipment, no financial security, No guarantee it's going to work or go anywhere at all. But they get into flow. They share the authentic selves with the world. They take aligned action by putting their gifts out there, even when it feels scary or uncertain. And the universe responds. We've watched it happen over and over again. People build entire careers, communities, and income streams just from doing what lights them up. They attract opportunities that they never could have planned for. Brands reach out, collaborations happen, doors open that they didn't even know existed. And whether you love content creator culture or you think it's ridiculous, you can't deny what's happening energetically. When people step into aligned action, when they share their authentic gifts without waiting for permission or perfect circumstances, the universe conspires to support them in ways that are absolutely unfathomable. They didn't wait until they felt financially secure to start. They didn't say, let me get my life together first, then I'll share my message. They started at the top of the pyramid with their purpose, their creativity, their authentic expression. And then the foundation built itself. And that's the power of leading with aligned action. This is the shift I want you to walk away with today. You don't have to wait anymore. You don't need permission. You don't have to have everything all figured out at the bottom of the pyramid before you're allowed to step into your purpose. In fact, it works the exact opposite way. Self-actualization isn't the reward you get for handling everything else first. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. When you prioritize connecting to your purpose, aligning with universal energy, and sharing your gifts with the world, you're not being irresponsible or unrealistic. You're actually working with the laws of the universe instead of against them. You're operating from the quantum field of infinite potential instead of the limited field of survival consciousness. And from that elevated frequency, everything you need flows to you: community, security, resources, support. So here's my invitation to you this week. What would you change in your life if you gave yourself permission to start at the top? What is one thing that you could do that serves your highest self, your purpose, your spiritual growth, even if the practical things aren't perfect yet? Maybe it's finally starting that creative project that you've been putting off. Maybe it's joining a community of like-minded people. Maybe it's simply sitting in meditation each morning and asking, what is my soul calling me toward? Whatever it is, I challenge you to take one small step in aligned action this week. Not after you feel more secure, not when you've made more money, not when the timing is perfect. Right now. Because when you align with your purpose and take that aligned action, you're working with universal law. You're tapping into quantum healing. You are proving to the universe and to yourself that you trust the process, and the universe will respond. And remember, you're exactly where you need to be to start becoming who you're meant to be. Trust your timing. Trust your path. Trust yourself. If this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. What would you pursue if you stopped waiting for security first? Share your insights in my free Facebook group. There's a link in the show notes. Or just reach out on social media. Your breakthrough might be exactly what somebody else needs to hear. And if you're ready to go even deeper into discovering what's calling you and how to step into aligned action, grab my free clarity map at mariaharoura.com/freebie/clarity. It's full of journaling prompts and exercises to help you uncover your purpose and start living it right now. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you for being willing to question what you've been taught and open yourself to new ways of seeing things. You deserve to live in alignment with your highest self. Not someday, but today. And don't forget, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path.